presents Club Buggery, live from the Festival of the Boot here in Australia. Club Buggery proudly features on song the Nissan Cedrics.
September madness is in the air. It's under our skin, it's all through our hair. It covers the earth and lives in the skies. It's weekday lows, Club Buggery high.
And sharking the crumbs off the pack, Australia's brand new Beatles. And now, could you please give a big hands off, pumped up, talk of the town, Club Buggery welcome to those two Australasians of the year. Those rogues of roulette, the Black Knights of Blackjack, those salty sailors of fortune, rampaging Roy Slaven and H.G. Nelson!
Yes, thanks very much. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Ian, Tabs, Tabby. Thanks very much, brand new Beatles. And tonight the Beatles are augmented by the Rooting King Brass. Thanks very much, Nissan Cedrics. Hello, Australasian lovers of the leather. It's your night tonight. And, of course, Club Buggery coming to you live from the Festival of the Boot here in Errol Street, North Melbourne. Congratulations, North Melbourne Kangaroos. And with that as way of setting the scene here in Club Buggery land, let's ask Rampaging Roy Slaven who or what captured the wild will and want and imagination of the world this week. Pal.
Thank you very much, H.G. Nelson. Well, we saw it today with the pre-match entertainment. The pre-match entertainment at the AFL final galvanised the nation.
Good.
Year 2000, we've got nothing to worry about. I saw Rick Birch and Peter Feynman, all those blokes taking notes. There they were, the prophylactic bloody big players. One fell over, the other didn't. You had the kiddies forming the wagon wheel that sort of collapsed and then fell apart.
The maypole.
With the maypole, the fertility dance around the maypole.
Bit of butt wiggling.
Bit of butt work happening.
Oh, it was all there.
It was tremendous.
Oh, yes.
I've never seen entertainment like it. We've got nothing to worry about. The world is our oyster.
Oh, yes.
When it comes to entertainment, oh yes, we've done it. We've got it. Just reproduce that in the year 2000 and oh, bloody hell, we'll never do the Olympics again.
Now, with that as a way of setting the scene here in the Boot, it's time to welcome a man who loves rugby league,
Oh, yes.
who loves tomatoes, who loves mud crabs. But when it comes to rugby league, he believes it's a simple game for simple people. Nissan Cedrics, can you give their best player an absolute mouthful? Can you stack on a stink? Can you pull the penalty? Can you scoot away from dummy half and put the ball over the line under the back dot? And when you go back to line up that kick, that grand final goal kick, I don't know how far I can go. Thanks, Roy, there the uprights. And you come in and you get it on its way. Can you give us the Tommy Raudonikis story?
Drive and rip the stride. The football dance is a bloody jive with Tom terrific, terrific, horrific. The battle of the song is playing with Tom. Diffusing a bomb is living with Tom. Oh, Tom terrific, terrific, terrific. A passing of bomb is a gig on the town. There's a right and there's a wrong when living with Tom. Tom Raudonikis is Tom terrific is Tom.
There's a few West supporters in, I think, tonight. people who make the trip in from Campbelltown.
Mate, it's absolutely wonderful.
Good. Now, look, let's set the scene for this conversation by going back to an important match for the Western Suburbs Magpies where they got into the 8 by managing to beat North. But things don't look good at this particular point because there's a bit of a try stack on here. Soft try by Nigel Roy. You can see the line there. He's going to go all the way and he's going to plonk it down. But you weren't done yet. No, you got your boys fired up. The lads fired themselves up. Paul Langmack shouted at them. Here it is. You practice this at training all week and it comes off. It's a beautiful try there. Scores a level at this point. No, they're scores a level here. And then a kitty out of the blocks gets a field goal and you win by 1 and you're into the 8.
Mate, that was a great night for Western Suburbs and we were doing it pretty tough and if we didn't win that game, we were gone for the season. And but we played very, very well. Norse played well and actually young Willie Newton was supposed to do the field goal, but he's seen a little gap and he took the gap and he couldn't... well, naturally, he couldn't kick the field goal, went to Andrew Willis, and I think Langmack said, look, do something, just kick it, you know, just drop it, try anything. So it went over the black dot, so we were very fortunate.
Now that you've had a couple of days to calm down, especially after the season of Mad Monday and so on, how did you see the seasons at West? A successful season, or...?
Yeah, I think it was. Like, at the start of the year, I knew that the coaches, that's me included, my coaching staff and the players, we had to improve 30%. On last year, well, we improved 25, and that got us into the 8, and the club's really kicking on. We're extending our Leagues Club at the moment. Gold Star, our major sponsor, on board. Singo and 2GB, 2CH, they're helping a little bit. So we're on the way up, and in a couple of years' time, you know, I think we'll be a force.
And with the Western Suburbs there seemed to be a bit of a reluctance to the initial move to Campbelltown. And you, in fact, pioneered an old-fashioned way of getting people down to the ground by driving around in the car and shouting at them through a megaphone, come on down to Campbelltown, see Western Suburbs Magpie play the North Sydney Bears.
Yeah, which is absolutely crazy, but it took a long time to get the Campbelltown people, and they're great people out there, I can tell you. They're wonderful. But it took us a while. Now they believe they've got a football side, put it that way. There's still a long way to go out there, but I think the average age out there is 10 years of age, which I think is brilliant. So, mate, we've got a bit of a future.
It looks good for the future, I must say, Tom.
They love breeding out there.
They certainly do. You know. Now, Tommy, I think originally you were coached by the Brigidine Nuns.
That's right, exactly.
I was coached by the St Joseph Nuns. What was the technique of the Brigidine Nuns? Was it a ruler over the back of the knuckles?
Yes,
was that the style?
It really was, and Mother Scholastic was this Brigidine's nun name, and I'll never forget her because... And she was also the head boss of the school, and I was a little bit, you know, I was a wild bloke, and she used to belt me all the time. I was getting the 6 cuts every Monday out the front, you know. But things haven't changed either, HC, I can tell you.
Well, I'm sure
what were you getting the 6 cuts for? Tell me, for not putting in on the weekend playing footy, or for not doing homework? What were you getting the cuts for? Was talking in class, or what?
Yeah, and then I'd miss a few classes too. I'd be out fishing or something, you know.
And what was their style with the training? You know, was it a lot of, you know, sort of work with the tackle bags and, you know...
What's this with the Brigidine Nuns?
Brigidine Nuns.
No, we did, naturally...
running?
No, we did our running and our passing, but, like, we weren't up to date on things like today. We had nothing like tackling bags and things like that. But I tell you what, I think we won all the group carnivals and we won everything. So it was terrific, you know.
Do they use the blackboard much at all, Tommy, with wants to move from here to here? No, the nuns.
No, they don't.
The nuns, you know, did they use the blackboard? Just sit around at any planned moves or anything like that?
All she used was a cane, mate.
Yes.
Which is that...
And sometimes I use that with my boys
Well,
too.
that's what I was going to say. But you're using those techniques of the nuns,
That's
aren't you?
exactly right. Well, you've got to use something, you know.
And what were the half-time sprays like when you were down, say, 10-6, and it was there for the taking, Tommy? What did the nuns come out and say?
The nuns, she just used to belt at us half-time. But all those things have changed now, and it's really, like, Western Suburbs, now we keep up with all the modern things. I change. I'm a little bit erratic sometimes in my training, but, you know, we get modern stuff from the States, like every other club does. We watch videos, and the only thing we haven't got, what a lot of clubs have got at the moment, is money, but we're working on that. We're getting there, and like I said, in 2 or 3 years to come, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Well, let's have a look at you playing after. This is a bit after the Brigidine. I like this bit. This is
The nuns would have been proud of this.
Indeed, there would have been no cuts at half-time here. Now, he's in the number 7 here for the Western Suburbs Magpies, these days playing at number 7. Have a look there, you get me. Oh, yes, and you're going to get up underneath in a minute. Oh, there you go, you're on the bottom now. You're going in from behind, and then you're up on your feet again, and you're always looking for...
We see some nice work from Les Boyd here with the boot.
Oh, there it is. That's tremendous. And now it's all on again, Manly. God, they're hated, aren't they, by everybody? And they are even hated by the Western Suburbs. Things settle down. You go in and give your other number 7 a bit of a Larry Dooley. You don't argue there. Here it is again. Player knocked out. And then, of course, you come in. I think you rush up
here. You pacify him, Hugh.
Yes,
I think you pacify him. Settle down, settle down, settle down.
The peacekeeper there. Now, it does raise a question about the relationship that you have with the Manly Football Club. I mean, why does everybody hate Manly? Are they that bad?
Just before we go on to that, HG, I'd just like to congratulate Manly, mate, in the grand final. They got a super side, and you'll probably ask me the question later. I think they are entitled to be favourites tomorrow, and I think they can win because of their defence.
Yes.
But in those days, in the 70s, we did have that hate relationship with Manly, as you can see there. And poor old, and our old mate John Donnelly, who's dead now, and he was a great player, John Donnelly. And at the moment, he's playing with the Devils.
Do you think?
Yes.
Not with the Angels?
Not with the Angels, mate. The Angels have got a shocking side because you know where all the good ones go.
They can't win. They need some of the Bridgetine nuns, don't they?
Exactly.
They're cane at half-time, them Angels.
Yeah. Hey, see, you go back to them days now. Them days are gone. And it's good for rugby league that those things have changed. Because, you know, the game is, you know, is televised so much, the profile is that much higher, and you just can't do those things anymore, and I think it's great for rugby league in the sport, I really mean that. But
yes, but Tommy, you've brought spirit. You have spirit. You've brought spirit to Western Suburbs. They haven't got money, but they've got spirit. Manly got money, but no bloody spirit. Now, that's the difference between the two.
I wouldn't say that because Manly made the grand final, so they've got something going for them.
Yeah, millions of bloody dollars, Tommy. That's what they've got going for them. Millions of corrupt bloody dollars, too, might I say.
But yes, give Bozo some credit, Bobby Fulton, and actually I played with Bobby a lot of times. And
you hated Bobby's guts.
When I played against him, I did. But I tell you what, I toured with him. I had 2 Kangaroo tours, 2 World Cup tours with Bobby Fulton. And the last year he was our captain, and what he did in '78, we won the series, and we had a few really demanding times, and Bobby Fulton as the captain, he was absolutely great. And so you've got to give him credit for tomorrow too. Forget about the money and everything.
Yeah.
I still hate him when I played against him. We used to clash.
You still hate him now. You still hate him now. There's
no money. If I just mention this very quickly. Bozo and Mal Reilly, who's been in the country for 4 days, got hundreds of thousands of dollars for loyalty to the Australian Rugby League. What did you get?
Nothing.
You should have got bloody $40 million for loyalty, Tommy.
I couldn't agree with you more. Exactly right. No, but all I can say about that is I don't like to talk about the
You don't want to talk about the money, okay.
But the thing is, the league, you know, I did get some money off the league, whether it was as much as them other blokes, whatever, I don't really care. I'm coaching Western Suburbs and I've got a job to do, and I hope to... I've got next year to go. I hope to get another couple of years after that. Then I'll go back to mud crabbing, which reminds me, you two larrikins. Remember that time you caught me?
Yes.
We phoned you when you were mud crabbing.
I just came back from mud crabbing.
That's right.
And I got about 25 mud crabs too that morning, and which was exceptional. But I also had a few beers, so you caught me out that day.
Yeah, we did.
You certainly did.
Tommy, I saw Paul Lagnac interviewed on Channel 9's Footy Show before the semi-final. And he was asked what you would say to them before going out, and Paul said that probably you'd say something like, I wish I could be out there with you. Would you still like to, do you miss it, Tommy? Do you miss being out there? Would you like to be able to put the shorts on and the boots and go out and have a tumble?
Sometimes, you know, especially after you've had a few beers, you get a bit pissed. You sort of say, well, geez, wish I could play again, but no, I've had my day. That's all over. I'm a coach now, and I'm making a good set of it. But I'm just that keen now for West to do well. Yeah. And but you know, you miss your playing, and you think back the times you played with the Donnellys, the Fultons, and whatever. And
is it true?
life, isn't it?
Is it true that when you were touring with Steve Mortimer, you were sharing a room with him, that
Yes,
to assert authority over Steve, who was challenging you for your halfback spot, you threw all these players out of the room? You threw everything out the room?
Yeah, that was in Brisbane in the stateside, and actually he got picked ahead of me.
Yeah.
I was still the Australian halfback, and he got picked ahead of me.
Right.
And but the silly managers, they had no idea. They put us in the same room, and he wanted the double bed, you know, and I said, listen, young fella. Oh, I was going to say something.
It's that sort of show. It encourages people
and
to
I
say
just
the
said,
wrong thing.
listen, what are you doing? He said, that's my bed. I said, no, it's not. I just threw his bags out the window.
Who got the double bed?
I didn't. And
Did he have to go down and get his own gear?
That's right.
Carry it back
I didn't
in?
go and get it. And, the thing is, I got my Australian jersey back, and but the thing is, Steve Mortimer, great player, Steve, and a very good friend of mine. And I said, this is where it's great with rugby league. You can look back on your mates, and like people say to you, well, he's a better halfback than you. And I said, look, you're probably right, but you can't take my memories away. And I think that's the most wonderful thing about sport.
Yes.
They can't do that.
Now, you've tipped Manly in the big
Yes,
one
I
tomorrow.
have, yeah.
What do you think about the Swans in relationship to the future rugby league in town here?
Well,
in
mate,
Sydney in particular?
I think there's a place for the Swans.
Yes.
I honestly think with society the way it is, with kids not doing anything, I think there's a place for everything in sport. As long as the kids play something. I don't care what it is. I hope they play rugby league because that's my sport. But, you know, with the things like drugs and everything going along there, like, we need everything we can to help these kids, and I'm pretty strong about that.
And on that cheerful note, it's time to wish Tommy every success with his footballing future. And I ask everyone, whether they're at home or here in the Festival of the Boot, to get them out and bang them until they look like a couple of continental fragrance as a way of thanking Tommy Raudonikis.
Tom, terrific, horrific. The battle of the song is playing with Tom. The music of all is living with Tom. Tom Raudonikis, it's Tom terrific, it's Tom.
He still does look very fit, doesn't he?
He looks fitter than ever.
Yes, if there was an accident on the way, God forbid, to the grand final tomorrow in the rugby league, I think he'd step into a pair of shorts and going out.
Oh, in the trenches.
Oh.
That's where you need Tommy.
Now, this week there's been a lot of chat, Roy, about concussion in the game. This has been prompted by the problems Matthew Ridge, the Manly fullback, has had last week when he was knocked out playing against Cronulla. Yep. Now, a number of doctors have had a look at Matthew's head, some of whom have never met him before and never even seen him.
Never seen his head either.
Never seen his head, and made very, very dire predictions about what might happen should the kid play this weekend. Now, Roy, you've had experience with concussion. You've visited the far side of the planet Coosbane many, many times. What is your experience? What's your personal experience with concussion?
Yeah. Yeah, I never had any problem with concussion, actually, I must say. I used to enjoy it.
Yes.
We used to call it the half-dream room.
Oh, yes.
The half-dream room. I found I played better in the half-dream room. You were somehow removed from reality.
Yes, the responsibilities of reality.
The responsibilities of reality. And two, if I saw a player who was concussed, I'd fear them a little bit because you knew they were capable of going absolutely, totally berserk because they had no control in many ways about what they were doing. But I mean, you can talk to your bloody neurosurgeons who know nothing, who know nothing, many who've never played rugby league, with your neurosurgeons. The brain is the least misunderstood, is the most misunderstood bloody organ in the body. And it seems to me, actually, that any examination, any mapping I've done of the brain, and the brain's only recently been mapped.
By Roy.
The brain is like an onion. And if you go into the inner rings, the inner core, you're stepping back in time in evolutionary terms. So I guess you go back to the fish, then you go to a lizard, then you go to amoeba before the fish, probably. That's a single-celled organism, not that it had much of a brain. And you move your way through until you get to the outer level, your higher learning activity, which is what you don't really need to play rugby league. You don't need that. So if you get any outer bruising to the brain, well, so what? As long as you've got that primitive instinct,
Go forward.
go forward.
With the ball.
Go forward with the ball. Don't drop the ball. Don't knock on. If you haven't got the ball and someone has got the ball, hit them if they're wearing the right jersey. That's all you need to know. I mean, forget all this nonsense about concussion.
how did the Lithgow Shamrocks, Grassy himself, and the medical staff at the Shamrocks deal with concussion in your day, Roy?
Smelling salts.
Yes.
Or a slap around the face.
Yes.
And you were simply asked one question. It was a simple test. What are you doing? What are you doing? Playing rugby league. Out you go.
Did they ever use the finger test? How many fingers have I got up? And when you said 2, close enough, off you shoot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Who am I?
Now, Roy, I think one of the interesting aspects of this Matthew Ridge case concerns the fact that he was going to sit a test. Oh, yeah. The test was meant to be obviously sat, say, Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. Matthew Ridge was coming in. They were obviously had prepared a bit of a padded cell for Matthew to sit down at a bit of a table in there and have a go at the test. Unfortunately, the Daily Telegraph in Sydney published the test in the paper on the morning of the test. I don't know, there it is on screen now. Look, there's the Matthew Ridge test that he must pass. Now, I don't know whether that's fair. I don't think it's right that a rugby league player should be able to read in the morning paper.
The test he's going to have that afternoon.
Now,
unless he's really suffering from concussion.
Well, I understand Matthew failed the first test and they had to go...
19%.
19%. Luckily enough, in the later edition of the Daily Telegraph that day, they published another test, which he got 51% for, so he passed beautifully. Now, there
but
are...
this test is a nonsense.
Yeah. What do you make of it,
if you were a code breaker, if you had a code breaker, say Second World War,
Hut 6.
Combine,
Yeah.
Hut 6.
Yes.
Looking for the 4th bomb. You've only got 3 bombs to crack the Enigma code.
Yeah.
You know where I'm coming
Jerry's
from.
coming at you.
Jerry's coming at you. Yes.
Out the subs.
The wolf packs are hunting.
Yeah, I know. The cowboys are
You've
going
got to crack the code.
You got no concussion. You've
Well,
just got a
if you're
sole
not
bloody problem.
Well, indeed.
Is it that bloody easy, though?
That's the test.
Is it that easy? I doubt it.
I doubt it. But that's the sort of test... Where are we? That's the sort of test you'd get them to sit for.
Yes. I'll give you an idea of how easy this
If you
test
had a code breaker who had concussion, that sort of test I'd give you.
Now.
That simple test. So.
Now, what it is was a simple test where he's got a line of numbers and then he looks at this at the scale and he sees that when he sees a 1, he's got to put a minus sign. When he sees a 2, he's got to put a T section. When he sees a 3, he's got to put a U, etc. When he sees a 4, he's got to put an L.
Different symbols for the symbols.
Yes, for the numbers.
For the numbers, yeah.
Now, phew, I wonder what that would test exactly, Roy. And should there be other tests? Should there be other tests? Do you think the world of concussion demands a more strict test? I understand he was going to do a lot of join the dots, like 1 here, 2 there, 3 there, and just draw a straight line through them. Couldn't he do something more elaborate, like an octopus with, say, 4,000 numbers and the legs going down there and the upper legs here and a bit up there and maybe a bit of seaweed here and a fish over there and then a bit of bubble up there and a diver Dan coming down here with a bit of a string and stuff like that, maybe up in the millions.
Yeah.
That'd set him out in 30 seconds. Yeah. Here it is, Matthew. Off you shoot.
Off you shoot. But as I say, you don't need that sort of higher learning symbolic skills. You just need... The only test I'd give him is a tackle test. Have a neurosurgeon run at him
With the ball.
and see if he can take him front on. Ball and all. Ball and all tackle and maybe go a little bit of a gouge when he gets him down. If the neurosurgeon gets up with a, cut eye, he's lost possession, the penalty's gone against him, tick the box, Matthew. Jump, you shoot, you can play.
And now the show that all footballers love. It's easy on the eye and it takes their mind off the game, the impending grand final. It gives them something to think about apart from, obviously, the concussion, the problems of taking the ball up and getting the tricky ones on the turn. In fact, 9 out of 10 footballers hope this show is on a grand final eve. Let's see if the parrot is off the perch. Is it time for Tips About the House?
Tips about the house, to do all the talking. Tom's as quiet as a mouse.
Tips' new show. It's tonight, isn't it?
Yep.
What's it called again?
World's Funniest Doors.
Right. Boxtel. The world's funniest. Here it is. It's on after Clutch Cargo with Spinner and Paddlefoot. And we can watch Perfect Match at 11:30.
Great. I'm just in the mood for the world's funniest doors. Put it on.
Right.
The world's funniest doors.
Hi, and welcome to the world's funniest doors. I'm Ian Turpey, and tonight we start in Bern, in Switzerland, with the garage door of Hans-Peter Walther. And next we're in Nagoya, Japan, and how's this for a fridge door? And speaking about fridges, how about this little front door in Iceland? I get goosebumps just thinking about it. You know, they say a door is like the fly on a trouser. It's bad manners to hang out in front of it. But seriously, have you ever tried to hang a door? Well, Ron Clark of Canberra in Australia had a go at it, and here's the result. Crazy, eh? Now, here's the door that Elton John had a long jimmy against in Christchurch in New Zealand. And here's the last door made from the last red cedar cut down in the Hunter Valley. And here it is burning after we split it up for firewood. Doors, don't they just kill you? I once knew a door. No, it's true. I once knew a door that kept blowing off. It's true. And here it is. Listen. And so to the door of the week for $600. We've narrowed it down to 3. First, Funny Man Ugly Dave Gray's car door. Next, Cricket Funny Man Greg Mahatma Coat Ritchie's fly screen door. And finally, comedy guru Funny Man Ian McFadgen's wardrobe door. And the winner is, for $600, Cricket Funny Man Greg Mahatma Coat Ritchie's fly screen door. That's it for this week. See you next week on the world's funniest doors.
The world's funniest doors.
Shocking.
It's a stinker.
It won't last.
It's foxtail.
Might last.
Oh, fuck.
Turns about the house. Football. We want more of football. Football. We've gone football man. That's right, football man. You heard us, football
Roy, parents are the unsung heroes of the footballing year. Throughout the season, they take kiddies to ovals, they collect kiddies from ovals, they do the washing up, they treat injuries, they act as officials, they blow the whistle in some occasions, and they're very keen on feeding the players the correct diet. What role should parents play at this time of year with the season coming to an end and the big awards nights, well, let's face it, being part of the football year?
Actually, I think parents have got to show support.
Yes.
Show support to their kiddies like they've always done.
Yeah.
It's an awesome responsibility being a parent when you have got a footballer. Even from the earliest days. The earliest days when you see the kiddie out in the park and you think, hello, we've got a footballer. What are we going to do about it? How do we encourage it? I remember, in my case, H.G. Grassy used to hang about the playground, just loiter. Just loiter about watching the kids. And if he spotted a kiddie who showed a bit of potential, he'd visit the parents. Yes. And make sure... See, he felt he had a religious conviction. He felt he was converting kiddies to football, to rugby league, for God. He felt that he had that. That was his mission in life. That was his goal. So he'd make sure he did. So he got, you know, Mum and Dad down. They'd be down there every Saturday, you know, for the competition. Dad would be running up and down the sideline, shouting out, "Come on, Ryan, put in!" And showing disappointment when I didn't. You missed the bloody tackle, bloody down! That sort of stuff. Mum would be in the car taking notes, you know, like missed tackle.
17 minutes in.
17 minutes in. Missed the cutout pass.
Yes.
Where were you there? Why did you fall over?
step.
Why did you go silly? Why were you lying down for 20 minutes without moving? Why did they have to come out and give you a little code? And why did you start drawing on it? And why did you then get up and start playing again? All that sort of stuff. Honk, honk, wake up, Roy. Yeah, they put in. I think parents, it's an awesome responsibility.
And in the Brownlow, when you see a big night like the Brownlow, and wasn't it a great count this year?
It's the best count I've ever seen.
Yes, it was a magic count this year in the Brownlow. Of course, the award given for, you know, success in AFL football and the great players. And wasn't it good to see some of the parents involved there at home?
Michael Voss's mum and dad in particular.
Yes,
they were emotional,
well,
weren't
they're very, very emotional.
Yeah.
Very, almost speechless.
Totally speechless.
Well, I'm becoming speechless myself thinking about it. Speechless with emotion. Roy, you know, is that a wise aspect to show show, though, you know, much in the same way as obviously a lot of parents would worry about some of the incidents in the AFL Grand Final this week and in the Rugby League semi-finals last week, vis-a-vis injury to kiddies. On the other hand, you know, showing very, very emotional parents. Is that wise for the game?
Look, I think it is wise. I think it is wise. Look, and it's also, HG, I must say, very, very sad when your parents can't offer you much advice anymore. You know, I remember, you know, when we used to come home and practice, you know, mistakes I'd made, we'd practice in the kitchen. We'd sit down a scrum, say, in the kitchen, using kitchen chairs. And yeah, hooked over the chairs.
Yeah, and the ball would go in.
Hooking for a little while. Mind you, I was quite a tall hooker for those days. But anyway, be that as it may, I did. Dad wanted me to be a hooker because he was. When you got to the point where you were bigger than your dad, you know, I remember a king hit him once in a tackle. And it's very sad when you put your dad on the ground, you give him concussion and he's silly for a couple of weeks. You know, he's having trouble doing his job. And stuff like that.
Doesn't understand what that
didn't
is.
Understand. Didn't know me.
No.
Didn't know me. Didn't know Mum. Didn't know anyone. You know, we lost him there for a couple of weeks. When he came back, it was great. But you sort of felt. You sort of felt sad. You know?
But I tell
when you walk out, you step out of the shadow.
Yes, that's right. There is another aspect to that. You know, a lot of players play for an awful long time. Sometimes they get into their 30s, and it's a bit weird.
Well, Michael Tapp, 38, 39.
Yeah, a bit weird having parents in the background still telling them how to do things. You know, hold the arm straight when you kick the ball. You know, obviously let it drop and kick it.
How to fend.
That's right.
How to fend.
Right. How to put on a don't argue and stuff like that. You know, as a grown parents, obviously getting on in years, trying to teach the middle-aged something about the game.
Yeah, that's right. Well, when your dad's, say, 89...
and you're 70.
And you're 70. You're still playing. He's still trying to tell you things.
That's right, that's right. Spread it wide. Take it up the middle, all that sort of stuff. Well, it is a problem. You know, the less I see of emotional parents, the happier I'll be.
I think they should stay out of it altogether.
Yeah, indeed I do.
They just get in the way.
Our next guest has sung at grand finals around the world wherever big men in tight shorts are chasing the pigskin. You'll find this woman giving the crowd a don't argue and something to go on with and something to think about before the kick-off, at half-time or down in the rooms post-hooter. Tonight she's supported by Australia's brand new Beatles and the Rooting King Brass, the Nissan Cedrics, and on feet the Smokin' Six-speaker sound system, the tune Spinning Wheel. Australia, can you shout yourself hoarse? Can you clap them until they drop off? And when they do, can you lift the sheets as a way of welcoming to the bug house Ms. Kelly Abbey?
Let the spinning wheel spin. You got no money, you got no home. Spinning wheel all alone. Talking about your trouble, never learn. Not a painted pony, let the spinning wheel turn. So what goes up must come down, must come down. What goes up must come down. Pony, let the spinner hands up. Let's go now.
That was the Adriana Xanides decides to give motherhood a spin arrangement of spinning wheel there. It was absolutely tremendous AFL flag-winning arrangement with Kelly absolutely at the peak of her form. And it wasn't just her alone, it was a team effort. The Beatles in a Norm Smith medal-winning best on-ground appearance, the Nissan Cedrics, Larry Dooley for the whole 4 quarters. And what about those smoking 6-speaker sound system downstairs on the feed? Talk about total grunt and poke in the bottom end where it matters. And Roy, the Sydney Swans went to Melbourne on Friday and they were accommodated 2 to a room, 2 players to a room, and the girlfriends and wives were accommodated in another hotel down the road. The Swans weren't on the job last night and they spent the night tossing and turning, thinking about, well, anything but football. Roy, you were prowling around the corridors of the hotel at about 4 this morning. What were the players up to?
It was all very quiet, I must say, HG, and certainly this period of abstinence of 24 hours paid off in the first quarter in particular, and fell away, of course, in the subsequent second, third and fourth quarters. I'm very much a believer in routine. I'm a believer in habit.
Habit.
And if you are used to obeying the laws of nature, if you are used to bringing into play the seminiferous tubules during the night hours before a match, then so be it. And I think it's up to coaches. Coaches have got to be sensitive to this, and I think they must approach the players and say, listen, the night before a match, what do you usually get up to with your partner? Is it, do you sleep with the underpants on, or are the underpants off? If it's an off, then it should be on, if you know what I mean, the night before any particular match. And I think this is where Rodney Eden made the mistake. They had to sleep in their underpants, and I think that was very silly.
Yes. Now, the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles and the...
Plugger Lockett, I think, always sleeps in his underpants.
Now,
Plugger wouldn't mind me saying.
I'm sure he would. Now, of course, the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles and the St George Dragons are at home tonight. They don't have to travel.
So it'll be business as usual.
Business as usual. If you want to go around and see any of the boys later on, I'm sure you'll be welcomed in as you normally are. And that's the great thing about having 2 Sydney teams in the Rugby League Grand Final. Now it's time to welcome to the Bughouse a man who was a saint. And after 114 hours of being a saint, he decided to become a Bond. Yes, he's our first guest who's had a licence to kill. Nissan Cedrics, can you get weaving in the fancy car? Can you escape the villains with some outrageous japes? Can you save the world from total destruction? And when things turn blue, as I'm sure they will, can you lie back and think of England while you give us the Roger Moore story?
Let's get smoothing, cruising, bruising, and fusing, Roger. Let's get teasing, breezing, tasting, cheesing, Roger Moore. Come through our door and take us where you've been before. Let's get sounding, bounding and expounding, Roger Moore. Let's have more, Roger
Thank you. You can go out and come in again if you like.
Thank you.
Look, one of the channels in Sydney at the moment is running, or maybe all around Australia, is running probably as a tribute to you being here. There's a couple of Bond films this evening, and we should bring our audience up to speed
Yeah, it's
by
so
having
much of a tribute to me as a Timothy Dalton movie.
I know, you come on. You come on after we finish. You come on after we finish. They're watching us while the Timothy Dalton's going around, and then when you come on, they'll be able to swap over. Let's have a look at you in action here as Bond. Look, it's a tricky scene. We've edited it slightly. The horrors horizontal, no surprises there. You get a message from M on an early form of the pager that looks like a labelling device, and it tells you to come back to headquarters immediately.
M.
M. Yes, that's right.
Sorry, Dale, I'm off.
Sorry, darling, something came up.
And the baddies. Here you go. Out.
So does England.
Out into the snow with the baddies hot footing it. You're on the skis. You look very relaxed on the skis. You look very relaxed going down at 45 degrees. The baddies are on the pass, though. They're deciding to shoot while they ski. You think it's time to get active now. You get into that gutter there. A baddie follows you in and the other baddies split.
I think that was this baddie's mistake.
Yes, indeed, as we'll find out in a moment. Don't give the plot away, Roy. And up he comes now. They're chasing you. Here you are. You decide to one of M's weapons. You turn around and you block that baddie right out of the business. And then you're skiing backwards. Look out, James, you're in trouble here. No, you're not, because you remember that old trick that skiing instructor taught you. Over you go, back the other way.
Remember, don't argue.
Don't argue. You come to the edge of the cliff. You think, bloody hell, the jig's up. But oh no, off into the silence as the baddies crash. You have a parachute. And you're able to when you look, yes, it's effortless, isn't it?
Come to think of it, there was one shot of me in that.
Yes, I know, I'm
The
sorry.
rest was another fellow.
Yes. Now, look, when you look back at the Bond films now, do you wince at some things you wish you'd done better, or are you fairly comfortable with them?
Oh, well, I don't think any actor can look at anything he's done and not say, I could have done it better.
Yes, yes.
Roger,
the old song is not right, nobody does it better.
How fit did you have to be for the Bond movies? Did you have to have a training regimen of any sort?
Yeah, on Fridays when I tried to get the money out of the producers.
Right. But I noticed when you were doing, say, The Persuaders, you bulked up a little bit, and then...
that's because we drank real champagne.
Right, I see. So there were no weights work or walking machines?
No, I've never lifted weights. I do push-ups, sit-ups, and side bends and twists, run on the spot, play tennis, ski, and count money.
Yes. Now, what's your relationship like with the other Bonds? I'm sure I ask this question often. You would have encountered work, Sean Connery and other work.
I can remember years ago doing something that was called Sunday Night at the London Palladium.
Right.
And Jimmy Tarbuck, who was the MC, said, at that time I was doing The Saint, he said, you're Simon Templar, The Saint. He said, and Patrick McNee, you know, he's the Avenger, John Steed. He said, Sean Connery, you know, he's James Bond. He says, do you see one another? You go out together? I said, sure. He said, pussy galore? I said, well, we don't go looking for it. You know, the whole point, you see, is that that wasn't a class show like this buggery.
No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. What I was going to say, I bumped into Tony Curtis a few years ago when he was out here, and we got to talking, as you do with Tony, and he conceded that he was probably very difficult to work with. But what he did love in working with you in particular, in The Persuaders, was when you directed a couple of episodes. Did you, or do you feel you'd like to do more directing?
Yes, I love directing, because I didn't have anybody to argue with.
Right.
It was terrific. No, I probably am going back to do a little directing now.
Now, the Bond, the recent incarnation of the Bond, I think is a pale imitation of the work that you and Sean did. You know, this Brosnan Bond, I think, is very, very disappointing. It's just unconvincing.
He's a pillow.
He's an absolute pillow. He powders when the going gets tough, and the sets and the stunts look very, very artificial.
Yeah, I mean, that ridiculous jump off there.
Oh, the reservoir wall and the bungee jump, and he just...
I saw that, actually.
As in?
Oh, it was a hell of a stunt. That really was something. It was for real.
And how much of the stunt work were you allowed to do when you were Bond?
Well, you're allowed to do anything unless you're going to kill yourself, you know. That is in the first 2 weeks. I had a theory that in the first 2 weeks they were going to kill me because they could then get the insurance money, then get another actor and go on and make the film.
Yes.
Halfway through the film, I knew I was going okay, you know. And the last week of the film, I started getting very nervous because I knew they had enough in the can that they could kill me off, get the insurance money, and they wouldn't have to get another actor anyway.
It's a tough time, isn't it? That worrying.
Now, you're obviously in you know, terrific condition, and you obviously look after yourself. Now, you've been plagued with kidney stones all your life. I get kidney stones. What have I got to look forward to? How often are the bloody things going to come around? I guess.
You want a consultation now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, put things on the table, and I'll tell you. No, kidney stones, you know, they're no problem today.
No.
You can sit in a bath and they give you 2 sound volts through you and they go, or drink a lot of, I drink a
lot of
litre
water.
and a half of water every morning when I wake up.
Okay.
And I go to the bathroom a lot.
It's an exquisite pain, though, isn't it?
Which, going to the bathroom or passing a stone?
When you're passing a stone.
There was a terrible thing happened. When I was doing one of the bombs in, we were shooting Moonraker in Rio.
Yeah.
And I was 3 days late arriving because I had a kidney attack. I was about to get on the Concorde in Paris. And I ended up in hospital. They shot me full of morphine, which was nice. I liked it.
Oh, yeah. It's like concussion. It's a very nice thing.
Yeah, it is. I heard that. You're absolutely right. I've been there. But anyway, so 3 days later, I got the next Concorde. I arrived there. And of course, they told the press that I was late arriving because I had a problem. I had kidney stones, etc., etc. The next morning, they made an announcement saying the good news was that I'd passed the kidney stones, but Lois Charles, the leading lady, had swallowed it. There's a fellow sitting there, he's going, what's that mean?
Now, look, you're here for UNICEF, and you have...
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned UNICEF. I was trying to get the badge
now, look,
going.
we've got an ad. It's an American ad. I don't think it's shown in Australia here, of you representing yourself for UNICEF. Let's have a look at that now.
The name is Moore. Roger.
Undercover, huh?
We have a UNICEF.
Oh, I thought it was something important, you know.
It's very important. UNICEF is committed to keeping our promise to children everywhere for clean water, healthcare, food, and education.
Yeah, every kid deserves a break. Attaboy, Raj.
Help us keep our promise to the world's children. Support UNICEF.
And UNICEF's in its 50th year, and you're here, obviously recognised by the audience. And you're here with a couple of missions, bomb-like missions for UNICEF.
Yes, well, I must say Qantas sort of brought me out very kindly because they do a Change for Good program, which is where you're asked on an airplane on the Qantas, British Airways do it as well, and a couple of other airlines. Any odd change in your pocket, you just put it in. It's going to be thrown in a drawer or the back of a cupboard. You might just as well put it in the envelope, and that is. And the other appeal is for the Sheraton hotels, the ITT Sheraton Group, where they do checkout for children. They add $1 to each stay that you're in the hotel. Yeah. And if you don't want to put the $1 on, you can say, I don't wish to. Yes. And the staff will be very nice. They say, you're a mean money, you know.
Yes. How did you get involved with UNICEF? I know you've been at it for a while, and I understand it was a connection with friends and performers in the caper.
Audrey Hepburn actually got me into it because she asked me to co-host a show with her in Amsterdam about 6 or 7 years ago. And you never said no to Audrey. I mean, she was very persuasive. And I listened to her talk, and she got me hooked. I wanted to find out more. And it's very difficult in the context of a show, you know, which is sort of like a parody, and it is a great deal of fun, to talk about something as serious an issue as children in a light-hearted way, or somebody like Audrey, who was a dear, dear friend and a great loss. But anyway, I went off and I listened to all of them talk. I listened to Peter Ustinov, who was a wonderful ambassador, and Harry Belafonte. And I thought I had to learn. So I became a special representative. I get paid $1 a year, tax-free. Don't have to give my agent any commission. And I wander around the world making general nuisance of myself.
Yeah. Well, I think the truth of the matter is that I think a child dies roughly every 7 seconds, I should say, because of largely incompetence and indifference. And if in some small way people can plug into the message you're delivering, we can probably, or hopefully, alleviate a bit of that. I suppose that's in précis the message.
You said that beautifully.
After a hesitant start.
And unfortunately, we live in times where governments are less inclined, especially governments from affluent countries like ours, are less inclined to contribute to, you know, people who are worse off, really.
Well, that is true. You know, I would love to have had the time here to meet with government people, which is what I do in a lot of the countries. Yes. But I've not had the time. But I know that you're such eloquent gentlemen, and this message will get across, and the government will do something about it. But that is the reason that, you know, that I am sort of useful in the terms of fundraising, because I am known in a couple of places, and so I can get, you know, a couple of interviews with the media and talk about the private sector for fundraising, which is where we have to turn to. And that's why we're so grateful to the people like Sheraton, to the new campaign that UNICEF is running in Australia, which is Change for Kids on October the 23rd, where you're going to put all the money you've got in your pocket in the envelope there and then, won't you? You'll do that, won't you?
Oh, yes, they're involved.
And now it's time to test Roger's knowledge of Hollywood hijinks.
There's no business like show business.
Yes, once again, it's time to play There's No Business Like Show Business. Who will Roger be playing for here in the boot this evening?
Yes,
Roy?
there's a birthday here in the boot, HC, and we're talking to, or who we're playing for, or Roger will be, Julianne Rackley, who turns 34 today.
Well done,
Julianne. Just here.
Now, let's go over and see what Julianne will win. Ian Tubbs, come here, the prize board.
Thank you very much, HG. And in the Club Buggery show bag tonight, we have the Club Buggery playing cards, the Crack Squad temporary tattoos, and It's a Joke cap, and the hit-packed Terps is the Talk of the Town album. And now back to you, HG, for the Hollywood hijinks.
Yes, thanks very much, Ian, and all those prizes available across Australia at ABC stores. Roy, take Roger through it.
Yes, Roger, there are two questions here, only one of which you need to get right. Firstly, what state of Australia is closely associated with Errol Flynn? Is it New South Wales, Tasmania, Victoria, or Queensland? Have a stab.
There's a clue. Tasmania.
Tasmania, yes, indeed. The clue, yep. And the second question, who is considered to be the least understood Bond? Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Pierce Brosnan, David Niven, or Timothy Dalton? Take your pick.
Would you run those by me again?
Timothy Dalton, David Niven, Pierce Brosnan, George Lazenby, or Sean Connery? You could include yourself if you wish.
The least understood?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I would say Sean Connery.
Really? I would have gone with David Niven. Or Pierce Brosnan. God almighty, who knows what he
name's Bond, James Bond.
Yeah.
And on that wonderful winning note, it's time to ask Roger to deliver the Buggery show bag and wish him every success with his future. And I ask everyone, whether they're at home or here in the booth, to get them out and bang them until they're nothing more than a couple of slices of spicy chicken roll as a way of thanking Roger Moore.
Roger Moore, he knew our door and took us where he'd been before. Roger, that was sounding, founding and expounding. Roger Moore, we had some more. Roger
And now in the Bug House on grand final weekend, we proudly present the third offering in Club Buggery's Football Opera Project for 1996. Tonight, the operatic stars of tomorrow and the stars of A Country Practice present Shades. We pick up the action at the break at three-quarter time in the grand final between Essendon and Collingwood at the MCG.
There is the siren, the scoreboard reads, three-quarter time. Collingwood leads 17-12 to 5-6. We are a terrible joke, no grunt, no poke. The grand final is lost. Too great has been the cost. Gavin Wang Paganine flattened his mate. James Herder's gone home in a crate. Joe Mercedes copped a boot of the date. A straight and super coach Kevin will get us on track for footy heaven. Where is cheese? We need cheese. We want Kevin to fill our ears with match-winning grand final ideas. Where is cheese? Boys, you are playing like hopeless peace. Pull the finger out, give the pies no peace. Have you forgotten our pre-match words? For 3 quarters now you have played like turds. Let me give you the basics once again. Win the stink and win the game. When I played footy I went in hard. I was a wild card. All I needed was a dog to lick my wounds in the place where I bleeded. That's when it was all over. All I wanted was a lick from Rover. Bombers, I love the spat, I love the nibble, because behind the umpire's back I go the fiddle. These pies are pillows. Don't let our plans turn to pus. That stinking putrid mess out there is us. There is the siren. Don't holler, our goal is in sight. One more heave, give these pies a fright. Just grab the ball and dob it through. Run out there and show me what bombers can do.
You're here live on Buggery in the Festival of the Boot.
Yes, when Tommy Raudonikis was here in the boot earlier this evening, he selected a couple of Club Bug members who had made those extra hard yards with their appearance. Roy, what have we got in the Buggery toolbox that celebrates that endeavour in the tricky fashion? Caper.
Hey, see, it's a red and white night. We've got here Leanne Edelston's mini...
Celebrates that endeavour in the tricky fashion. Caper.
Hey, see, it's a red and white night. We've got here Leanne Edelston's miniskirt. Now, I know the PAL colour system probably doesn't do it justice at home, but here in the room, that's a pink.
And that's a weave too.
It is a weave, and it's a look
beautiful.
too. And we've got these red and white plastic caps. They always look. They look good.
Yeah, they do. They do. They look.
We've got red and white socks, an odd pair. One St George, the other Swans.
Yes.
We've got a Swan scarf, and gee, aren't they coming into their own now?
They certainly are.
We've got the Swan song on CD.
Oh yes, ours will play there.
Yes, that's right. We've got the Tommy Raudonikis perfume. My hill finger, as it turns out. It's good to see Tommy linking up with that very august firm. We've got the port.
The port, the 007 port. It's a licence to kill, this port, but then aren't they all?
We have the Graham Langland's Guide to Owning a Bar in the Philippines manual.
That's a very good read. Very good read.
You just got to open the bar, serve the drinks, close the bar, turn the lights out before you go home.
It's a very quick read.
And we have here the Dunkley Handbook of Gouging.
That's right.
Obviously read last night by Plugger Lockett, given what he did this afternoon. And actually, when Rooting King was the mascot for the St George football team, that's the way the King turned out. And as Tommy Raudonikis said to me earlier tonight before the show, bloody hell, that Rooting King, he sure could Roger.
What's your name?
Craig.
What's your name?
Craig.
Craig, and Chrissy. Well done. Congratulations.
That a rumping, a pumping,
good to see a fine young couple making the effort in the bug house. Sadly, we come to the end of another show. Roy, where are you off to this week?
Actually, I'm going to go to the new Liverpool Theatre restaurant to see Bawdy Bills.
Oh, yes, Bawdy
It's
Bills.
Bawdy Bills, and I believe it's a very bawdy night in the style of Dirty Dicks, which I love.
Yes, who doesn't love the Dicks?
I love it with all that. I love smutting food.
Yes, it's just an absolute...
It's a very heady mix.
Look, I'm going down to see Dougie Parkinson launch Wildlife on Tuesday, October the 1st. That's this coming Tuesday at the Basement in Sydney. And this coincides with Doug Parkinson In and Out of Focus, 1966 to 1975 being released. So it's a double dose of Doug.
Yep.
As we sign off from the Festival of the Boot, Roy and I'd like to thank Tommy Raudonikis and Roger Moore, the Nissan Cedrics, Kelly Abbey, the brand new Beatles and the Rooting King brass section, the Ian Terps-Turpy, the 6-speaker sound system, the Australian Opera and the cast of A Country Practice, and you, the audience, whether here in the Boot or there at home. Thanks once again for taking an interest. Finally, it's time to pay tribute to the golden years of the Trocadero, and in the Troc, Tato was no stranger to the big occasion on a grand final weekend. People were always bobbing in for a wriggle and a wiggle. It's considered a great place for the champions to gather, and tonight we revive that tradition as the giant of the G-Chord, Ian Terps-Turpy, launches his record.
His new CD.
Record, Terps is the talk of the town. And so before this glittering grand final audience here in the Boot, Ian's selection for you tonight, and you alone, is track number 1, Love Potion number 9. See you next week, Booters, when once again we lay the cable.
Took my troubles down to Mad Fruit. You know that gypsy with the gold captain. She's got a pad down on 34th and Vine, selling little bottles of
Love potion number 9. Love potion number 9.
I told her that I was a flop with chicks. I've been this way since 1956. She looked at my palm and she made a magic sign and said, what you need is
Love potion number 9. Love potion number 9.
She bent down, turned around and gave me a wink and said, I'm gonna mix it up right here in the sink. It smelled like turf and looked like Indian ink. I held my nose, I closed my eyes, I took a drink. I didn't know if it was day or night. I started kissing everything in sight. But when I kissed the cop down on 34th and Vine, he broke my little bottle of love potion number 9.
Love potion number
9. Everything inside. But when I kissed the cop on 34th and Vine, he broke my little bottle